Internet addiction in children under 10 compared to adults, a biopsychosocial analysis. As digital technology becomes increasingly embedded in daily life, concerns about internet addiction have expanded beyond adults and adolescents to include very young children. Internet addiction is a behavioral pattern characterized by compulsive, dysregulated use of online platforms that continues despite negative consequences. Although the DSM-5 does not formally recognize internet addiction, it does list internet gaming as a condition for further study, acknowledging evidence that online behaviors can develop addictive properties similar to other behavioral addictions. In my course, Addiction Fundamentals, we emphasize that addiction is never caused by a single factor. Instead, it reflects an interaction of biological, psychological, and social influences, known as the biopsychosocial model. This model is especially important when examining internet addiction in young children, because they are developmentally vulnerable to reinforcement patterns found in digital media. Their executive functioning systems, impulse control, and emotional regulation capacities are still forming. As a result, online content can condition powerful reward cycles much more quickly in young children than in adults. Drawing on course concepts such as conditioning, craving, the addiction cycle, harm reduction, learned behavior, and the strengths-based perspective, this project explores how internet addiction forms in children, how it differs from adult addiction, and why overstimulating digital media plays such a significant role. Defining internet addiction and diagnostic content. Internet addiction refers to compulsive, dysregulated online behavior that continues despite negative consequences. This includes excessive use of games, YouTube, scrolling, and digital devices in a way that interferes with functioning sleep, relationships, or emotional regulation. Although the DSM-5 does not officially recognize it as a diagnosis, the inclusion of internet gaming disorder highlights strong behavioral and neurobiological parallels between digital compulsions and established addictions. From a conditioning standpoint, internet platforms often rely on reinforcement schedules, especially variable rewards, to keep users engaged. This mirrors the same behavioral mechanisms we study in gambling and other process addictions. This unpredictable reward system activates dopamine pathways and conditions users to seek stimulation, reinforcing the compulsive cycle. Biopsychosocial causes in children under 10. Biological factors. Children's underdeveloped prefrontal cortex reduces impulse control and increases susceptibility to reward-based reinforcement. Their neural pathways are highly plastic, meaning repeated patterns, such as screen use, strengthen quickly. Young children also show heightened dopamine responsiveness, making fast digital media especially reinforcing. Psychological factors. Children rely heavily on external regulation. Screens frequently become a digital pacifier, forming associations between emotional discomfort and digital soothing. This directly mirrors the addiction cycle taught in this course: trigger, craving, use, temporary relief, consequences, shame, new trigger. Fast-paced media contributes to attention fragmentation, reducing children's ability to sustain attention on slower real-world tasks. Social factors. Children model caregiver behavior. If adults rely on screens for coping, emotional escape, or distraction, children learn the same behavior through observational learning. Algorithms intensify this learning by autoplaying new videos, maximizing digital engagement, and heightening craving. Biopsychosocial causes in adults. Biological factors. Neurochemical reward pathways. Internet use, especially gaming, social media, and online shopping, activates the mesolimbic dopamine system, the same reward pathway involved in substance addictions. Fast, intermittent rewards like messages, likes, new content create dopamine spikes, reinforcing repeated checking and scrolling. Genetic vulnerability. While no specific internet addiction gene exists, adults with family histories of addiction, impulse control, or ADHD are more vulnerable. Genetic influences affect dopamine regulation, reward sensitivity, and impulsivity. Brain structure and function. Overuse can alter the prefrontal cortex functioning, reducing impulse control, decision making, and emotional regulation. Adults already struggle with executive function deficits, example ADHD, trauma-related dysregulation. They may be at higher risk. Co-occurring mental health conditions, depression, anxiety disorders, and bipolar disorder can all increase vulnerability. Adults may use the internet to self-medicate symptoms such as loneliness, low mood, or anxiety. Psychological factors. Coping mechanisms and emotional regulation. Adults often turn to digital spaces to escape emotional pain, stress, or boredom. Internet use becomes a maladaptive strategy for managing anxiety, depression, trauma symptoms, loneliness, work stress. This creates a negative reinforcement loop. Unpleasant emotions, internet use, temporary relief, worsening symptoms, more use. Personality traits. Certain traits increase risk. High emotional sensitivity, impulsivity, sensation seeking, low self-esteem, social anxiety. Perfectionist adults may also retreat into online spaces when real-life performance feels overwhelming. Conditioning and habit formation. The internet provides instant gratification, reinforcing compulsive checking. Variable reward schedules, unpredictable notifications, new content act like a slot machine when making behavior harder to stop. Identity formation and escapism. Online environments allow adults to curate identity, feel competent, or escape real-life stressors. Adults with histories of trauma or chronic invalidation may feel safer online than in offline relationships. Social factors. Isolation and loneliness. Many adults experience limited social support due to work schedules, parenting demands, living alone, chronic stress. The internet becomes a substitute for emotional connection. Our work from home culture, increased reliance on screens for work, blurs boundaries between professional and recreational use. Adults struggle to log off, creating compulsive patterns. Cultural and environmental pressures. Society rewards constant availability, productivity, and digital connectivity. Adults may feel obligated to stay online for work, relationships, or social currency. Relationship dynamics. Adults experience relationship conflict, emotional neglect, or loneliness. They may seek validation or connection online. Online spaces feel safer and less demanding, reinforcing avoidance of real-world intimacy. Accessibility and convenience. Smartphones make compulsive behavior easy. The internet is always available, always stimulating, and always rewarding. Low barriers equal high risk. Overstimulating digital media and reinforcement mechanisms. Modern children's shows like Paw Patrol and Cocomelon employ rapid pacing, bright colors, loud music, and exaggerated emotional content specifically engineered to maximize engagement. Research shows that just 9 minutes of fast-paced cartoons significantly impairs children's executive function. These features closely resemble slot machine reinforcement cycles, characterized by sensory overload, unpredictability, and variable rewards. Such reinforcement schedules produce some of the strongest conditioning effects in addiction science. In contrast, in the 1990s, shows like Bear in the Big Blue House and Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood used slow pacing, calm dialogue, and emotional connection that supported executive functioning and self-regulation. Fast-paced media also produces a dopamine cliff, where children experience irritability or dysregulation after stimulation abruptly stops. Because young children cannot self-regulate effectively, this crash strengthens the drive to seek further stimulation. Symptoms in children versus adults. Symptoms in children. Children exhibit addiction through regulation impairment, including emotional outbursts during device removal, difficulty transitioning to offline activities, irritability without stimulation, reliance on screens for soothing, sleep disruption, hyperactivity or withdrawal, attention difficulties. These patterns reflect dysregulated dopamine activity and overstimulation. Symptoms in adults. Adults show functional impairment such as compulsive scrolling, insomnia, avoidance of responsibilities, decreased productivity, anxiety when disconnected, using screens to avoid emotional discomfort. Adults typically use digital media to cope with stress. Children use it because they lack internal regulation. Treatment approaches and harm reduction. According to harm reduction principles, the goal is not digital abstinence, but reduced harm and strengthened regulation skills. For children, effective strategies include structured screen routines, reducing exposure to overstimulating media, promoting slow-paced, developmentally appropriate shows, increasing offline sensory and social play, modeling healthy device use, improving sleep hygiene. CBT can help older children develop emotional regulation skills and understand triggers. For adults, adult treatment targets underlying stressors and avoidance patterns. CBT and motivational interviewing support behavior change, internal motivation, and balanced digital habits. As emphasized in addiction studies, relapse is viewed not as failure, but as an expected part of behavior change, offering insight into triggers and reinforcing learning. Some community supports that might be helpful are Kids Help Phone, the school-based mental health programs, local mental health clinics, Smart Recovery for Teens, Internet and Technology Addicts Anonymous. These supports align with the strengths-based perspective, focusing on empowerment rather than blame. In conclusion, internet addiction in children under 10 reflects a complex interaction of biological immaturity, psychological vulnerability, and social reinforcement. Overstimulating media, dopamine-driven conditioning systems, parental modeling, and algorithmic design all contribute to early addictive patterns. Using the biopsychosocial model, the addiction cycle, and harm reduction principles provides a holistic understanding of how these patterns form and how they can be addressed. By integrating strengths-based supports, developmentally appropriate interventions, and consistent family involvement, we can reduce harm and promote healthier digital habits for both children and adults.